Have you ever wondered why you feel so drained after being there for everyone, emotionally, mentally, even physically? Why, after saying yes again and again, you're left feeling empty, frustrated, and unseen? Here's the truth no one talks about. Being emotionally available to everyone is not compassion. It's self-abandonment in disguise. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to believe your worth is tied to your availability. That saying yes, pleasing others, always being the strong one, is noble. But this belief quietly chains you to an exhausting role. You become the fixer, the peacemaker, the one everyone counts on, except you. And the cruel irony? The more available you are, the less you're valued. People begin to expect your presence, your emotional labor, your time, as if it's endless, as if it's owed. Carl Jung said that the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, is what keeps us from truly knowing ourselves. And for many, that mask is built from availability. You're not showing up because you want to. You're showing up because you're terrified of what will happen if you don't. Will they still love you? Will they leave? Will they say you're cold? These fears keep you stuck in an emotional cycle where your needs are always last. But here's where the shift happens. The day you realize that your energy is sacred, that your time, your attention, your emotional presence, it's not for everyone, and it shouldn't be. You were not born to be the emergency exit for people who ignore you until they need relief. You were not created to be the emotional punching bag for those too afraid to face their own chaos. You are not a 24/7 hotline for validation. The moment you become unavailable, not out of cruelty, but out of deep self-respect, you will watch the game change. People will question. Some will distance. Others will panic. But all of that reveals who was truly there for you and who was simply there for access to you. And that's your awakening. Have you ever felt emotionally used because of your availability? What happened when you started saying no? Share your story in the comments. We're building a community of people reclaiming their peace, one boundary at a time. Most people don't realize they're giving away the most precious thing they have. Not money, not time, but energy, psychic energy. Every reaction, every emotional outburst, every explanation you didn't owe, every text you felt obligated to answer, it costs you something. And here's the painful part. It rarely gives anything back. You go to sleep drained, not because you worked too hard, but because you were pulled into 100 emotional directions, most of which had nothing to do with you. Carl Jung taught that the psyche isn't infinite. It runs on energy. And every careless response, every impulsive yes, every argument you had to win, it's like punching holes in your own soul. Little leaks every day, until you're exhausted and you don't even know why. Ever noticed how some people thrive off your reactions? They know exactly what to say to get under your skin. And every time you react, they win. Because they're not feeding off truth. They're feeding off you. Jung warned us, what you resist persists. The more you respond to every provocation, the more you empower the pattern, the more energy you bleed. But here's the power shift. You can choose. You can choose not to react. You can choose to sit with discomfort instead of exploding. You can choose to leave a message unanswered. You can choose to breathe instead of bite. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of someone who has finally realized they don't owe their life force to just anyone. Psychic energy is like sacred currency. Spend it wisely. Invest it in peace, in presence, in people who pour back into you. Guard it from energy vampires, emotional manipulators, and chaos disguised as urgency. Think about this. How many times have you lost sleep because of a pointless interaction you couldn't let go of? How many mornings started heavy because of a conversation that should have ended with silence? This is the cost of being reactive. But the moment you choose restraint, calm over chaos, you reclaim power, not over others, but over yourself. Tell me in the comments, where do you feel your energy is being drained the most? And what's one boundary you know it's time to set? Let's talk about energy awareness and take it back together. Have you ever noticed how certain people only reach out when they're in crisis? Or how some seem to drain you emotionally, but you can't explain why? Carl Jung had a word for this: projection. Not just others projecting onto you, but you becoming the emotional screen for their unresolved shadows. And the more available you are, emotionally, mentally, energetically, the more you become their favorite canvas. That friend who calls only when they're down, that partner who depends on you for emotional regulation, that person who praises you just enough to keep you around. They're not relating to your essence. They're relating to the role you agreed to play. And here's the hard truth. You agreed, not out of weakness, but out of fear. Fear of disappointing, fear of abandonment, fear of not being needed. You've confused emotional sacrifice with love and availability with worth. But here's the trap. Manipulators don't need to control you. They just need you to keep reacting. As long as you're predictable, as long as you say yes, even when it breaks you, you're playing the part they assign to you. Now imagine this. You stop reacting. You don't explain. You don't argue. You respond with silence or not at all. Suddenly, everything shifts. The projection breaks. The mask they placed on you falls off. And what's left? Discomfort, confusion, sometimes even anger. Because now they have to face themselves, and many aren't ready for that. Your silence, it threatens their illusion. Your boundary, it forces them to confront their own emotional immaturity. But here's the liberating part. Your emotional availability is a choice, not a duty. You don't owe anyone your presence just because they're used to consuming it. When you stop reacting, when you stop feeding the dynamic, you become something rare, uncontrollable. And yes, that means some people will leave. Let them. Because what you lose in fake connection, you gain in self-respect. So I want to ask you, what role are you tired of playing? Who are you still trying to save at the cost of yourself? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about reclaiming your energy and breaking free from roles that never reflected your truth in the first place. Have you ever noticed how silence, when used consciously, feels louder than words? Not the silence of defeat, but the kind that comes from power, the kind that shifts the energy in a room. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing clarity in people who benefit from your confusion, something incredible happens. You take back control. Strategic silence isn't passive, it's a declaration. It says, I no longer need to prove myself. I no longer need to engage with every storm. Carl Jung believed that silence is not emptiness. It's a doorway to deeper awareness. And in a world addicted to noise, that awareness is rare and threatening. Think about it. The moment you stop replying right away, someone accuses you of being distant. The second you set a boundary without justifying it, someone calls you selfish. But what's really happening? You're disrupting the emotional dynamic they relied on. Your predictability, your people-pleasing, your need to fix everything. They weren't engaging with you. They were engaging with your emotional availability. And now, you've taken it away. That's why silence isn't weakness, it's disruption. It's a pause that makes others confront their own noise. And the truth is, when you stop explaining yourself, you become unreadable. When you stop reacting, you become unshakable. And yes, it will scare people who only knew how to relate to the version of you that overgave, over-explained, and over-apologized. But this silence, it's not about punishing others, it's about healing yourself. It's the space where you gather your energy, where you stop leaking your worth into places that don't deserve it. And most importantly, it's where you start to choose who gets access to you. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself. What would happen if I responded with silence instead of defense? What would change if I stopped needing to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding me? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever used silence and watched someone unravel? Or better yet, have you ever found peace in simply choosing not to engage? Your voice matters, but so does your silence. Use both wisely. You've been taught that being there for everyone is noble, that the more available you are, the more worthy you become. But what if I told you that your constant emotional availability is draining the life out of you, not filling it? Think about it. How many times have you said yes when your soul screamed no? How many times have you stayed on the phone for someone who never asks how you are? You were taught to believe that love, validation, and connection come through self-sacrifice. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The more emotionally available you are to everyone, the more invisible you become to yourself. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to be liked, accepted, needed, and that mask, it's heavy. When you're always emotionally accessible, you become an emotional ATM. People take, but rarely deposit anything meaningful. They don't see you. They see what you provide. Validation, comfort, convenience. And you keep showing up even when it hurts because deep down, you fear that saying no means being unloved. But here's the twist. The people who truly value you don't need you to abandon yourself for them. And the people who get upset when you finally set a boundary, they were never respecting you. They were using you. Let this sink in. Emotional availability without discernment is self-abandonment. It's trading your peace for approval, your silence for survival. And the longer you do it, the further you drift from your true self. You start feeling empty, resentful, misunderstood, because you're giving love in places where your presence is expected, not cherished. So ask yourself, who actually earns access to your inner world? Who deserves your softness, your time, your presence? Maybe it's time to stop giving 24/7 access to people who wouldn't knock if your door was closed. Let's open a conversation. Drop a comment. Have you ever felt like your kindness became a currency others exploited? What helped you reclaim your emotional energy? Let's talk about it, because you deserve relationships built on mutual care, not emotional debt. Every time you react to something that doesn't deserve your attention, you spend a currency far more valuable than time, your psychic energy. Carl Jung didn't just see the human psyche as a passive receiver of emotions. He saw it as an energy system, one that can be depleted or empowered depending on how we manage our internal responses. And the harsh truth? Most of us are bleeding energy without even realizing it. That one message you felt guilty not responding to, that unnecessary argument you replayed in your mind 100 times, that comment from someone who doesn't even know you, but ruined your whole day. These aren't random irritants. They're energy thieves, and you're letting them rob you bit by bit. Now ask yourself, are you consciously choosing where your energy goes, or are you reacting on autopilot? Most people aren't tired because of what they're doing. They're tired because of what they're constantly reacting to. They're emotionally exhausted from trying to manage how others see them, trying to fix what was never theirs to fix. And in this chaos, they lose sight of the one thing they actually can control, themselves. Carl Jung believed that true power lies in inner containment, knowing when to respond and when to remain still. Every impulsive reply, every attempt to explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, every emotional outburst, it leaks energy. And the more you leak, the weaker your core becomes. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to respond to every text, defend every decision, or prove your worth. That's ego, not presence. And ego is loud. But power? Power is quiet. Power chooses where it flows. So start asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Am I reacting out of truth or out of habit? Because when you learn to master your energy, people will notice. You'll speak less, but say more. You'll show up differently. You'll become someone others feel, but can no longer control. Let's talk about it. Have you caught yourself emotionally drained by things that didn't deserve you? What helped you shift? Drop a comment and share your experience. Your insight might wake someone else up. There comes a point where your silence speaks louder than any explanation, where your absence hits harder than your presence ever did. And this, my friend, is the beginning of conscious unavailability, not as a weapon, but as an act of self-respect. Carl Jung called it individuation, the sacred journey of becoming who you truly are, not who others expect you to be. When you stop being emotionally accessible to everyone, when you stop being the yes person, the fixer, the one who always answers, something magical happens. The noise dies down, and in its place, a new voice emerges, your own. But make no mistake, this transformation is painful. At first, it feels like loss. You'll question your silence. You'll feel guilty for saying no. People will pull away, accuse you of changing. And they're right, you are changing. You're evolving out of the role that kept you small, exhausted, and emotionally bankrupt. You're shedding the skin of a version of you that was built for approval. And yes, that old version served its purpose, but now it's time to let it die. In the emptiness that follows, something deeper begins to grow. Sacred solitude, not loneliness, but a powerful, anchored sense of presence. You begin to realize that your value was never in how much you gave, how much you were there for others, how quickly you replied. Your value is in your energy, in your boundaries, in your stillness. When you stop giving away pieces of yourself just to keep others comfortable, you begin to rebuild the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. Carl Jung taught that healing doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from facing your own shadow, embracing your own silence, and becoming whole within. That's where emotional rebirth begins. When you no longer need to prove anything, explain anything, or defend your distance, because your peace is enough, your clarity is enough. How many of you have recently felt the need to pull back, to reclaim your space and protect your energy? Share in the comments. What have you learned in your silence? What has solitude revealed to you? Let's build a community of people who are done abandoning themselves. When you finally choose yourself, truly, unapologetically, you are not just changing your habits. You are being reborn. The silence that once felt like punishment becomes sacred. The solitude that once felt heavy becomes holy. And the version of you that once relied on constant approval, validation, and connection finally dissolves. What emerges in its place is not a colder version of you, but a wiser, calmer, freer one. Carl Jung knew this path well. He called it individuation, the process of becoming whole. And to become whole, you must first dare to walk alone. You must dare to be misunderstood, rejected, even unloved, for the sake of no longer betraying yourself. At first, it's terrifying. You'll feel like you're losing everything: friends, routines, familiar comforts. But in truth, you're only losing the illusions. The people who leave, they were attached to your availability, not your soul. The roles that no longer fit, they were never meant to hold your spirit. And the emptiness you fear, that is the womb of your new self. In that space, you finally stop shrinking. You stop performing. You stop surviving. And you start living. Inner freedom is not found in applause or attention. It is found in the quiet moments where you feel peace without needing anyone to notice. It's the power to walk into a room and no longer wonder who likes you, but instead to ask, do I feel aligned here? Do I respect myself in this space? This is the shift. This is the rebirth. You are no longer controlled by the world. You become the creator of your world. Carl Jung taught us that wholeness requires facing both our light and shadow, that becoming free means detaching from the mask we were taught to wear. And now this is your invitation to rise, to stop negotiating your peace, to stop explaining your silence, to stop apologizing for needing space. Have you felt this shift lately? The need to let go, to detach, to find yourself again? What does true inner freedom look like for you? Comment below. I choose my rebirth. Let's start a movement of self-liberation. In 2025, a year defined by digital noise, emotional burnout, and constant availability, the story you've explored isn't just a philosophical reflection. It's a survival guide. The lesson is simple, yet transformative. You are not obligated to be available to everyone all the time. In a world that demands immediate responses, instant validation, and total accessibility, your power lies in conscious withdrawal. The message is not about becoming cold or distant, but about becoming deliberate with your time, your energy, and your presence. This story reminds you that the cost of emotional availability is your inner peace. In 2025, many people will continue to perform strength, pretend they're fine, and serve everyone's expectations until they break. But you, if you've truly internalized this message, will understand that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's sacred. When you step back, when you pause instead of reacting, when you say no without apology, you're not pushing people away. You're making room for the right people, the right energy, and the right alignment. What should you pay attention to? Your emotional triggers. What still makes you feel the need to prove, to explain, to please? These are the areas where your energy still leaks. Also, notice the people who disappear when you stop overgiving. Their silence is not rejection, it's revelation. Let them go. The individuation process Jung described is more relevant than ever now. With AI reshaping identity, with social media pushing curated versions of self, the true rebellion in 2025 is authenticity. Being rooted in your own soul, choosing solitude when needed, protecting your psychic energy. This is how you reclaim control in an age of overstimulation. So what's the takeaway? Stop apologizing for your silence. Stop explaining your boundaries. Choose peace over performance. Choose mystery over predictability. Most of all, choose yourself. Because in this age, the rarest kind of power is someone who is whole, without needing an audience. Are you feeling this shift in 2025? Are you choosing solitude, clarity, and power over constant noise? Comment below. I protect my peace. Let's lead the way for a new kind of strength, quiet, unshakable, and fully alive.